Dustin Dopirak with the Bloomington Herald Times with us now, as is Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com, as always. Hoosier Hysteria, lots of excitement coming up this weekend for the basketball fans, men and women, both teams coming in with high expectations. Is it a first that both teams are going to be ranked as we enter the season?
Almost definitely is.
It has to be, yeah. So there's a first for Indiana, both the men and women's teams, which is ironic that Indiana is just now getting that one ticked off. Although
it took a while to get the women's program right, and Terry Morin's done it.
It's there.
We could go around in circles. I mean, I don't know what the holdup was exactly. They had some good moments in the AIAW era, I believe. Before it was an NCAA sport, before I guess Title IX really took effect, but basically the NCAA sort of took on women's sports. But yeah, no, it just took a while for Indiana women's basketball to get right. And, there was a period where it was starting to get right, where the men's team wasn't in great shape. And, well, it really hasn't basically until now. So now the women's team's, has sort of gotten right. And now the men's team's gotten right. And so it's just for once you finally have those things, coming together at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a cool, I think it has the potential to be a really cool event, especially because it is homecoming weekend, even though Indiana did not get blessed with its homecoming opponent with Michigan coming in. But basically just puts a lot together for a pretty fun weekend. And obviously, works a lot really for both programs when it comes to recruiting.
Looking forward. Yeah, there's going to be several in attendance there as well. And it's going to be a great weekend for IU to show that off. Derek Queen was, he's not going to be here, but I saw that he's up to like number 30 in the Rivals Top 150 rankings. That's just a two-way battle between Indiana and Maryland, I believe. So, but several faces will be there. A lot of the local kids, Jalen Harrison, Tyler
Trent Sisley, yep.
Trent Sisley. So a lot of those guys. So it ought to be a fun time. And then we have to, not last year, they brought in Isaiah Thomas. So I was looking forward to seeing what are the new surprises for this season. Seeing the coaches come out in the candy stripes was cool last year. Mike Woodson really embracing that role. And so it looking forward to seeing how things get ramped up this year.
No, for sure. Shouts to MC Courtney Cronin. She was at IUS TV, basically, I want to say about like 09 to 12, somewhere in that range. So, good friend of ours going way back to then. So it's been awesome to see what she's gotten into since at ESPN. They got her on Around the Horn now. She's like one of their new superstars. So she's coming back.
Oh, is she on there?
To IU. So that's going to be cool. So it's her and Rhett Lewis are going to be the two MCs. So yeah, I mean, she's basically like her main gig is, I guess, Bears reporter, with their NFL people. But they've started to kind of really put her on kind of the star track, and that's been really cool to see as somebody we really got to know. I really got to know, and all of us really got to know. But she was, so that's gonna be really cool to see her, and I thought that was a really cool announcement to see them bring it back. Just an IU grad. Obviously, they did it with Sage Steele a couple of years ago, and she's kind of on that track too. So that's really cool.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We talked about a little bit about that with Don Fisher earlier. Rhett Lewis coming back as well. So that will be fun to have MC. I'm trying to remember what all they did in the procedure, the MC. It sounds like they're ramping up those responsibilities, I'm going to imagine, with having two people.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, there's going to be a microphone. They'll talk something. I mean, I don't know,
There's going to be a microphone. They'll talk.
Action
I love that description.
Little microphone work as possible. I don't think, I wasn't there for Sage. I don't think. I'm trying to remember when they did that, exactly when she was involved. Tebow tells us that Harrelson will not be at Hysteria because he got invited to Team USA camp. So that, I mean, it's a slight loss for IU, I guess, but they're
and they can forget about Floyd Badunga as can any other school not named Cincinnati.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Breaking news.
It's just my flat out prediction for that. It's not like that's been
fair.
Well, I mean, things always change. Things change.
They do.
I never this it probably wasn't a year ago, but Liam McNeely, boy, Indiana had no chance at him until he went to Montverde, and all of a sudden, I'm like, hold up. Now he's getting out away from the Texas stuff all the time. And as soon as that happened, I'm like, that changes the game. And it did. We'll see how that ends up.
But it's high school kids. And so you might think you know exactly what's going on, but you don't always, because they're 17 and 18. And
there's always handlers, people involved. I love the term handlers.
We really shouldn't use it. It's a bad use. It's a bad word.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, not good.
I mean,
but
they all got people. I mean, I mean, it's different with every kid. I mean, sometimes somebody looks like they're in a position that they're pulling the strings, and sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not. And so you don't know who's doing the right thing in those situations, who's not. I mean, it's just there's a lot that can be around a high school kid. Some of it can be really positive, and sometimes I think you end up, you see people in certain positions and you presume that they are shady, and sometimes they're shady and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they do have the kid's best interest. So it requires an infrastructure, when you get to be at a certain level, and advisors, people to make sure they're going to the right places, doing the right things, and keeping all this organized and keeping all of it together and making sure you're handling your recruitment the right way. So that requires some people to be involved, and sometimes those people have the best intentions and sometimes they don't. So, it is an interesting world, basketball recruiting in particular, because there's just fewer of them.
What happened with Paul Christ? I'm just that's a coaching firing that I'm like, am I missing something, Dustin? What?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they started 0-2. I don't know what's going wrong over there.
He's won, but he won like 10 games a year for. I mean, he's won a lot of games there. What was 67-27? I think is his record there.
Fun fact: he almost had the exact same record as when Bo Pelini was fired at Nebraska.
How's that go?
Keep that in mind.
He was also one win short of surpassing or tying Brett Bielema's record at Wisconsin.
Jeez. Well, yeah.
Brett Bielema owns the record.
Brett Bielema is, I think he's second on that list. I could be wrong. I think, and then
is that for winning percentage? Because I presume Barry has the most wins.
I think Barry has the most wins, but no, I think Brett Bielema has second most at 68, and I think Chris had 67 or whatever the total was.
Right. Like, on some level, I don't get it. I'm interested in what they're seeing, but I do think that I do think part of it is getting Jim Leonard in that job, and I think they want Jim Leonard to have that job. I mean,
well, he has it now.
He's the interim, but most of the time the interim is like you're holding the place warm until we can throw a just boatload of money at people. They might want Jim Leonard to be the guy.
This could be an interim. I don't disagree with that. This could be his audition because I think there's also going to be, if it doesn't work out well with Jim Leonard, there might be a push for Lance Leipold because he coached at Wisconsin Whitewater forever. So you have to think that there would be at least some level of interest on his part there. So I think Wisconsin might have some options.
Yeah, but I'd be surprised if Leonard's not the guy.
I agree.
He's performed pretty well. I mean, I think he had opportunities to go after other jobs previously. I'd be surprised if he's not the guy. That seems to make sense because if you're it is the thing that keeps you from being like, what on God's green earth are you doing?
Right.
I think that's the thing that, So, but I got a piece. I'll see you guys.